Have you ever pondered what brought about the final downfall of the Third Reich during World War II? Picture the city of Berlin, not just the heart of Germany, but the very epicenter of Hitler's empire. A city that was once a beacon of European culture, now a fortress bracing for an inevitable Soviet onslaught. At the helm of this impending attack was the seasoned Marshal Georgy Zhukov, a man whose strategic brilliance was only matched by his ruthless determination. Counteracting him inside the besieged city was none other than Adolf Hitler, a leader whose delusions of grandeur were crumbling as quickly as his Reich. The Soviets' initial plan was a massive encirclement, aiming to capture the city and decapitate the Nazi leadership. Meanwhile, the Germans, in a desperate attempt to protect their capital, were bracing for a brutal defense. As the Soviet forces encircled the city, the stage was set for one of the most brutal battles of the Second World War. On April 16, 1945, the battle truly began. With the first rays of dawn breaking, the Soviet forces launched their assault on the Seelow Heights. This was not an attack easily waged nor defended. The German forces, with their backs against the wall, put up a fierce resistance. The Seelow Heights, perched like a hawk's nest, offered a vantage point for the German forces. They could see the Soviet forces coming from miles away and ready their defenses. Yet the Soviet forces, undeterred by the advantage the heights provided to the Germans, pressed on with their assault. In the midst of this battle, the Soviets were also pushing towards the heart of Berlin. Key landmarks in their path included the Reichstag, the historic Parliament building, and the Brandenburg Gate, a symbol of German unity and strength. These were not just structures of brick and stone, they were symbols of the German spirit, and the Soviets knew that capturing these would deal a significant psychological blow to the German forces. Despite the fierce resistance put up by the Germans, the Soviet forces relentlessly pushed deeper into the city. Every building became a fortress, every street a battleground. The German forces, outnumbered and outgunned, fought back with everything they had. But the Soviet forces, driven by a desire for retribution and the promise of victory, were unstoppable. Despite the fierce resistance, the Soviet forces relentlessly pushed deeper into the heart of the city. The end was near, but not without a final stand. As the Battle of Berlin raged on, Adolf Hitler, the leader of Nazi Germany, had retreated to his bunker, now known as the Führerbunker, refusing to abandon the city he vowed to defend until the end. In the face of an imminent defeat, Hitler made the chilling decision to end his life. On April 30th, 1945, he committed suicide alongside his wife, Eva Braun, leaving behind a nation in chaos and a city on the brink of collapse. His death marked the end of an era, but not the end of the battle. Meanwhile, the Soviet forces, under the command of Marshal Georgy Zhukov, were closing in. Their strategic prowess and relentless pursuit had finally paid off. On May 1st, after days of intense combat, they managed to capture one of the most symbolic landmarks of Nazi power, the Reichstag. The iconic photograph of the Soviet flag flying over the Reichstag has since become a symbol of the fall of Berlin. The remaining German forces, without their Führer and with their city in ruins, had no choice but to accept their fate. Resistance was futile. The fight was over. On May 2nd, 1945, Berlin officially surrendered to the Soviet forces. The city, once the heart of the Nazi Empire, had fallen, marking a pivotal moment in the history of the Second World War. The battle was over, but its echoes resonated across the world. The aftermath of the Battle of Berlin was far-reaching and profound. The city, once a symbol of Nazi power, was now a scarred landscape of rubble and ruin. But from this devastation, a new world began to take shape. Berlin, and in fact all of Germany, was divided into zones controlled by the Allied powers. This division would serve as the foundation for the infamous Berlin Wall and the onset of the Cold War, a period of political tension and military rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union that lasted for nearly half a century. The Battle of Berlin also signaled the end of World War II in Europe. Nazi Germany capitulated, and a new era dawned, an era of rebuilding, of reckoning with the horrors of the Holocaust, and of striving for peace. The Battle of Berlin changed the course of history, marking the end of Nazi Germany and the beginning of a new world order.